Okay, so before I get started, I need to make sure that this thing is on. So, let's see, is this on? Tuesday. Well, it's Tuesday. It is July 18th. And am I on? Let's check. I'm live. Wonderful. All right, cool. So, hey guys, welcome. Hey Lorenzo, welcome. Lorenzo is part of the members area. Thanks for joining in today. So, I've been getting on Facebook Live, and I've been talking about Facebook Live, and these are also going to be posted later on YouTube, and you can watch them on Facebook later. But for the last few days, I've been getting on Facebook and talking about why men should be doing yoga. And the series is called Why Should Men Do Yoga? But really what I'm addressing is the most common questions that I get when it comes to whether or not people should donate their time and sometimes their money to doing yoga. And so for the last few episodes, I've done 3 so far. I've talked about yoga and sex. I've talked about yoga and testosterone, and I've also talked about yoga, yoga and whether or not if it's a good enough workout. So today, what I want to talk about is whether or not yoga has to be spiritual. Hey Sean, hey Everett, also part of the members area, and Rick, what's up? Welcome. Thanks for joining me. So here's what's going on. Again, we're going to be talking about whether or not yoga has to be spiritual. And I'm banking on this. This is just, it's going to make some people upset because some people are tend to be somewhat militant in their beliefs with yoga. For me, I have a different approach than most people, and I have a different background, which means that I've come to use yoga differently than a lot of other people. Hey, Mike, welcome. So, to answer the question, and I start these off with answering the question very shortly, and then I go into a longer explanation. Does yoga have to be spiritual? And the answer is no, it does not have to be spiritual. Not at all. So for me, I've been an athlete my whole life, and that meant for me that movement had always been something that I just do. It is not something that I associate with spirituality. It is not a time for me to connect with this universal sense of oneness, or whatever you want to consider spiritual. So for me, it has always been a workout. Movement has always been a workout. It's been playing a sport. So I've never thought of it in spiritual terms. When I first started doing yoga, I was being told like, well, and it wasn't explicitly stated, but usually near the end of class, the instructor would try to tie it into the spiritual aspects, right? So and maybe throughout the class, there would be mentions of spirituality, and then it would only be at the beginning and near the end of the class that there would be, how do I hide comments? There would be mention of the spirituality at the beginning and at the end, and so throughout the class, for the most part, it was focused on the physical part. So I would learn about the postures for the most part. I would learn, maybe there would be some mention of how I'm supposed to be feeling in my body. And that's what I was really interested in hearing, because I'm an athlete and I wanted to get better at my fitness so that I could be better at my sport. I played lacrosse in college, and this is what I wanted to be. Yoda is better than yoga. Yes, that is great. I like that. So I wanted to be a better athlete, and so my reason for doing yoga was so I could improve my fitness. And so when I was going through the postures and working on my breathing, to me it was always, okay, this is physical for me. This is how do I relax my body while also pushing myself How do I move my body in new ways to strengthen my body in new ways? So for me, there was never a spiritual aspect of it. And then kind of when we on the end, when we would get to the end of class, um, we would have some sort of spiritual aspect to it. There would be sort of, okay, this has been the end of the class. I'm going to, some people would be a short poem, kind of as, as some life advice or guidance, which was, it made sense within that atmosphere. Um, and it was somewhat intriguing, I guess. I mean, I understood the application. I understood why it was there and it made sense. Um, but for me, I always wanted to focus on the physical aspect of it. So when I started doing yoga classes, I initially started kind of with just mimicking everybody else. And so there would be very vague references to spirituality. Kind of near the end, it would be, something along the lines of, thank you for sharing your energy with me. Thank you for being here. Thank you for donating your time. Namaste, right? Whatever that would be. And after a while, I realized that that wasn't me. It wasn't authentic. It didn't feel right. So I stopped saying it. And that's when classes started to make sense. So instead of wrapping up class saying namaste, I would say, are there any questions? Because for me, my class has always been about instruction. It's always been about the physical aspect, and learning more about how my body works, and getting deeper into postures and improving mobility and pushing myself in different ways. So eventually I realized that the spiritual aspects of yoga didn't make sense to my teaching style, so I stopped using them altogether. And that made a lot more sense to me. So after I stopped doing that, I felt like I had my, to me it made much more sense is the point. Um, so to answer the question, does yoga have to be spiritual? No, it doesn't. For me, it's not. It's a physical practice. Um, it's it's a physical practice, and that's the way that I practice it. Now, that's not to say that yoga isn't spuritual for other people. For other people, yoga is very much a spiritual practice. Um, for other people, it could be an entirely spiritual practice. And I have my own theories on why that is. I think that I know that a lot of people who do yoga have never done or never been involved in physical fitness before, and so for them, when they're not exercising at all, and then they start doing yoga, and then they start moving and exercising for the first time, and also doing yoga in a spiritual sense. So the physical and the spiritual for them becomes tied together, and so yoga is associated with something physical and also spiritual. But you have to understand that for me, I started moving way before I started doing yoga. I started exercising and working out and doing all these different forms of exercise. So 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 for me, it was never a spiritual thing. But again, for other people, it can be spiritual, and that's totally fine. If you can use yoga for what serves you. So if you want to use yoga as a blend of spiritual and physical, which is for the most part, 99% of yoga is partly spiritual and partly physical. Um, I've never done a yoga class that is completely spiritual, that lacks any movement. Um, and I've also, um, but and for the most part, I've never been to a yoga class where it was purely physical. There was always some sort of, even just a baby amount of spiritual, even if it was just to satisfy kind of the expectations of the class. Um, and so kind of something that I'm doing new with Manful Yoga is completely new because we're not doing spiritual. I'm not. There's no mention of spirituality whatsoever. It's about connecting with. It's about developing body awareness. It's about obviously the fitness aspects involved, but it's obviously about, again, it's body awareness, and I think that body awareness can be interpreted as spirituality. For some people, they've never had that much never had that much feeling um, or control over their body. So by developing this body awareness, it's a new sensation for them, and that could be what they interpret or what they think of about as spirituality. Or so. Anyways, the point is, yoga doesn't have to be spiritual. It could be spiritual if you want it to be. Um, and so, yeah, that's kind of where I stand with that. Let's go to the comments. We're going to go to the useful comments since there aren't a lot. All right. Let's see here. Honest question. All right. So here's something I'll actually use. Is it frowned upon if you fart in yoga class? Honestly, no. I think it's like, I mean, nobody wants to smell a smelly fart, but if it happens, it's not, I think it's always interesting to see what the instructor does for me. Does the instructor acknowledge it and then say, oh, that's okay? Or does she ignore it? Or does she laugh? Or, what happens? So I don't think, obviously you don't want to go to yoga and just constantly fart the whole time, because that would make everyone around you pretty miserable. But it's not, I think there's some expectation that someone's going to fart in class. So it's not a horrible thing if you fart. Don't worry about it. Anthony is claiming to have developed body awareness around 11. Good for you. And all right, so any other questions? Everett, thanks for sticking around. Mike, thanks for joining. Everett, I already said that. Sean, thanks for joining. Lorenzo, thanks for joining. Rick, thanks for joining. So lots of members in here today. You know what? We might as well talk about, so while I'm in here, let's talk about why yoga is perceived as something so spiritual and maybe even religious. So yoga doesn't have to be spiritual, and along those same lines, it doesn't have to be religious. Religion is, well, the point is supposed to be organized spirituality, but that's not exactly how it grew up or has developed. But yoga is not a religion. Yoga can be, many aspects of yoga can be found in religion, particularly Buddhism, but it doesn't have to be a religion. So there's this big, a lot of people look at yoga and they're like, oh, I don't want to be religious, but yoga isn't religious. Even people who practice yoga, even like the diehard spiritual yogis, don't use yoga as a religion. They might use Buddhism as a religion, and they might use some other religions that may look like yoga as their religion, but yoga itself is not a religion. So I have someone who joined a retreat with me a couple years ago, and he's a Buddhist. He's an expat American, and he lives in Colombia, and he, for him, Buddhism is his religion. So when he looks at yoga and sees it kind of as almost as not making fun of, but almost as a watered down version of his religion, he doesn't like it. So he likes yoga as a workout, and he's a Buddhist, and he practices Buddhism as his spirituality and his religion. The point is that yoga can have religious roots, but it is not a religion, and it doesn't have to be spiritual. It doesn't have to be religious. And I know that a lot of people, are turned off from yoga because they think it has to be spiritual, or they think it has to be religious, but it's not. Yoga is movement, and beyond that, it's up to you how you want to create it. If you want to make it as a part spiritual, part physical movement practice, that's great. You can do that. If you want to make it, maybe principles that you follow and apply to your life, kind of as a life philosophy, then yeah, you could do that. But if you just want to use yoga as a workout, then that's absolutely something you can do, and that's what I do with Manful Yoga every day. I think that's all that I had to chat about. I think that's all that I had to chat about today. I'll be doing a couple more of these in the next few days. I definitely will do one on Wednesday and Thursday. But Wednesday, Thursday, so July 19th and 20th. But again, these are going to be posted later, so you don't need to be here for them. They'll be posted later on Facebook. They'll be on YouTube, and then I'll also have them on the Manful Yoga website once I'm finished with this series. So coming up in this series, the things I want to talk about, what are some typical results that I can expect? So if I'm doing yoga for 2 or 3 times a week, what can I expect to gain or notice in terms of my physical fitness improvements over the course of 2 months? Some other things I want to talk about are kind of flexibility versus mobility. What is flexibility and what is mobility, and what aspects of yoga work both? Anyways, I've got some other topics. They're all written down in my notebook somewhere. So we're going to be talking about some other commonly asked questions of yoga. You know, we can also talk about, does yoga help you lose weight? Does yoga help you build muscle? All right, guys, so that's what I've got today. Thanks for joining me. I will be here tomorrow. I don't have a specific time yet, so sorry. But I will be here tomorrow. And then, oh, yeah, one other thing. So I've got my Manflow Yoga mats are going on sale today. So if you're on my email list already, look out for that. We're going to be doing an intro sale for the members area. So if you're part of the Manful Yoga members area, you're going to get first chance to get these mats. We do have a limited number. I think we have a little less than 200 left. So we have a limited number left. So if you want to get those, make sure you order them as quickly when they do go on sale, because I can't guarantee that we'll have them all. And I think that's it. So, follow the Facebook. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. Get on my email list at manflowyoga.com/sign-up. And I will see you tomorrow, or I'll see you on the next video that you watch. Take care.